going to hide away on a little farm in Iowa. I'm going to ride away on the road that leads to yesterday.
Hey there, I'm author Sarah A. Chrisman, and today I'm making country fried potatoes. Now, this is a really common food here in America, and if you ask 5 different Americans how to make it, you'll probably get 5 different recipes. So it's one of those. Everyone eats it, everyone has their own way of doing things. So today I'm going to show you mine. You gonna help? Maybe. Sometimes you help. Sometimes you hinder. But that's how you roll. And sometimes you just ignore me. But we'll see what you do today. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start my pan heating. Then I'll chop up the potatoes and onions. But for now, I'm just going to put the pan on the stove. Get this going. About medium heat. Medium high, pretty much. Let that warm up. It's best to use a heavy pan if you have one because sometimes the really thin pans can warp a bit. I'm really fond of cast iron. I have my great-grandmother's cast iron pans, and also Gabriel gave me this really fun one for our anniversary a few years ago. And don't worry about the fat quite yet, because if you put it on too soon, it's going to smoke. So we'll just hold off on the fat for just a few minutes. So now what I've got are some cold baked potatoes from last night's dinner that were just left over, and this is actually my favorite way to use up leftover baked potatoes, and a bit of onion. And I'm just going to chop these in nice big chunks and basically chop the onion pretty, not too small. So these are pretty small potatoes, so I'm just going to quarter them. Just cut that one in 4 pieces, cut that one in 4 pieces. This one I think I'm going to cut in 3 like that. So chunks. This is about the size I like. Basically, I want it to be 1 bite worth or 2 bites worth. So just somewhere around there. And the onion a little smaller than the potatoes. And you can see if the pan's hot enough by holding your hand just above the pan. Obviously don't slap it down there, but hold it in the air above the pan, and after you've done this a while, you'll get a feel for how hot you want it. I want it a little hotter, so I'll give it a few more minutes. But while it's heating up, I'll explain about the types of grease you can use. So basically any sort of fat you can cook potatoes in. I like to use bacon grease. So that's what I've got. I save the bacon grease after I've made bacon. You can also use olive oil, but be aware that they smoke at different temperatures. So the reason why I like bacon grease is you can get this significantly hotter than you can olive oil before it starts to smoke. Olive oil, you wind up cooking at a lower temperature, and it can be a little trickier to get things nice and brown in olive oil. Not that you can't do it, it's just that it's easier to get a nice even brown when you're cooking at a higher temperature, which you do with bacon grease. Instead of getting, the situation where part of it's still a little raw and part of it's burnt. You can get that if the oil is too low of a temperature of oil. And the different fats give different flavors to the food, obviously. I love the flavor of olive oil. but just be aware it's different for all the different things you use. So part of what you want to choose is going to depend on what you're going to serve this with. Now, classic country fried potatoes go with things like bacon, eggs, all the old-fashioned farm breakfast. And so the bacon grease is a really nice flavor combination with those. If you're making this for a supper and you're going to be putting it with much lighter fare, then go ahead with the olive oil. If you're buying something that's just sold in a package called vegetable oil, read the ingredients. Corn oil is pretty good. Corn oil is not bad at all. I would stay away from soybean oil just because I don't like the flavor of soybean oil. I think a lot of people are probably with me on that one. Not necessarily everybody, but I haven't met many people who are totally thrilled with the flavor of soybean oil. And so that's an issue to just be aware of. And I think this is getting hot enough. So I'm going to put some of my bacon grease in the pan. And it doesn't take long at all to melt. There we go. Okay. And pretty much as soon as the bacon grease is melted, that's when I'm going to put in my potatoes and onions. And then I'm going to put a little bit of garlic on it. The bacon grease has salt, so I don't need any extra salt, so that's why I'm not using my favorite seasoning, salt, that I've talked about before. And then I'm going to wait to put any pepper on until after I take it off the heat, because black pepper is pretty volatile, and so it loses a lot of its flavor if it gets cooked. So it's a lot more Black pepper is a lot more flavorful if you wait till after you take things off the heat to put it on there. So just garlic, and there's already salt in the bacon grease, so garlic and then pepper when I'm done. And I think this is just about ready. Okay, there we go. Now, as this cooks and gets brown, I'm going to be turning the potatoes to make sure they get brown on all sides. And then when they're brown on all sides, they're done. And that is all there is to it. It's really easy. That's part of why this is such a popular dish here. And again, everyone's got their own recipes. Most people you ask, they're going to say that their recipe is the only right recipe. They're all valid. So. So there I've got my country fried potatoes. And like I said, everyone makes these differently. My grandma used to use raw potatoes, and she would slice them so thin you could read a printed word through them. I don't know how she got the potatoes that thin, but she did. And I ate them, and they were good. But I find this easier. Some people, the usual distinction is if people shred raw potatoes instead of chopping them or slicing them, then they're usually called hash browns. But I've heard lots of people call the chopped version hash browns too. So it just depends on who you're talking to. So you can use shredded raw potatoes, again, and whether you call them hash browns or country fried potatoes just depends on who you're talking to. Some people boil the potatoes first, then they chop them, then they fry them, or they slice them and they fry them. Any number of ways you can cook the potatoes first, then fry them, or fry them raw. Lots of different ways to do this, but I like this one because it's easy and very convenient. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a nice thumbs up and remember to tell your friends about my books. Happy reading!